Hello, I am happy to be alive. Um, the last two lives that I had, unfortunately, were shut down for copyright violations. And I looked into it. I don't have any strikes. I don't have any active strikes or anything. And I did appeal it, and they took. It's a long story, but essentially, when I'm live streaming other people's content, it's a risky thing to do. And even though some people do it, or I may have done it in the past and not had any issues, at any point they could give you a copyright violation. And it appears that anybody who is reporting on any type of geopolitics right now, anything to do with Israel or Iran or anything like that, if there's anything that you're streaming and commenting on with that, apparently in the past month or so, people have become more strict about letting other people air their content, and so you have to ask their permission and things like that. So I think it's just a new policy with YouTube, and it likely has to do with the changing dynamics, in the world. So it wasn't anything personal to me. Nobody, was trying to shut my channel down or anything like that. I think it's important to clarify that because, I mean, as much as I can be conspiracy minded, I'm also a very logical person, and I'm not important enough to be targeted for my channel to be shut down. So that wouldn't make any sense. And it actually makes a lot more sense that it was just I was showing too much of other people's content. And honestly, that's not a good way to make videos anyway. So I do like to sometimes show them because it's funny the way people like Candace Owens or Joe Rogan might deliver something, or a politician might deliver something. But I can give you what I've looked at, and then you can go look for yourself, at least for now, because if I keep getting copyright strikes, they'll just take my channel off. So anyway, what's been going on in the war, and I found myself trying to be very careful about uh, what I'm thinking about in terms of like Israel, America, Iran, the GCC, which is the Arab countries that we're um, friendly with, that we offer our protection to, like Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, UAE, these things, this whole Middle East place that we were trying to create, like a pseudo democracy, whatever we were trying to do. It doesn't seem like that's really going to work at this point. Dubai was hit, and apparently there's a lot of wealthy people that live in Dubai, and they weren't too happy about the rockets landing on their built up island. So hold on for 1 second though, because my dog is chewing my blanket. What are you doing? Hey, no, do not chew this. This is not for you to chew. I'll give you a toy to chew. Okay. Hold on, baby. Hold on. I'll give you this. Here, chew on this. Chew on this. So anyway, this morning before the stock markets opened, Donald Trump made an announcement that there's going to be a ceasefire for 5 days. Essentially, he's putting a hold on any type of bombs or any type of. Hey, this dog will not leave us alone. No. Okay, you want to go outside? That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Go ahead. And I think that was just to kind of keep the markets happy and not crashing or anything like that. But Iran is saying, no, that's not true. They're saying, well, no, we're not having talks. We don't know what you're talking about, Donald Trump. So here, let's just take a look. This is a newspaper. Hopefully they don't copyright strike me for a newspaper, but who knows? All right, here we go. On Monday, Iran forcefully denied claims by President Donald Trump that the U.S. and Iran are in the midst of negotiations to end the war, saying that no direct talks are occurring. Trump claimed on Monday via Truth Social that good and productive conversations had taken place with Iranian officials over the past 2 days. That's a backtrack from his Saturday threat. Remember, on Saturday he threatened to destroy the Iranian energy. He on Saturday he said you have 48 hours, Iran, to completely open up the Strait of Hormuz, which is technically not officially closed down. So whatever. And then he decides to be like, you know what? I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time, and we're in talks. So this whole week we're going to just be in talks. That's what he's saying. Well, Iran is saying no. Iran immediately dismissed his claims. Fake news is intended to manipulate financial and oil markets and to escape the quagmire in which America and Israel are trapped, wrote Mohammed Bagher Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Iran's parliament, in a post on X. So a senior Iranian official confirmed to DropSite that no new developments have occurred between Washington and Tehran. The official was not authorized to make public statements, spoke out of anonymity, and then he says there aren't any negotiations taking place. The Iranian side has simply communicated its conditions to them, and even that has been done indirectly. So, is Donald Trump bluffing? I mean, I think we know that he's pretty good at bluffing. So, yeah, I mean, he definitely could be bluffing. All the truth in the world leads to one big lie, Bob Dylan. No kidding. It's true. It's true. No matter what, the more you search for this stuff, the more you try to understand what's happening, it just leads to more and more and more stuff that doesn't make sense, where somebody lied, and it becomes overbearing, right, at times. And I realize this is all really my struggle to just gain some kind of control over the environment I'm in, because I don't know, maybe not everyone's feeling it, but I'm definitely feeling like things are very different right now, and that we are kind of in this free fall state where anything could happen. And it's a little bit scary, right? So you try to make sense of it. But I agree, like, truth is so tough to figure out and find. I think it's important during times like this, in my opinion, is to remember humanity. Remember, we're all human. There are babies and children, and all kinds of horrible things happening, dying, being killed, raped, all kinds of things with war. War brings out the absolute worst in humanity. And it's just so sad when I think about what's happened and what's happening. People are already struggling. So, the United States, we haven't really had to do anything right now. Like, we have this war, we're causing it, our government is causing it in Iran. And the American people don't really back it, right? I mean, I'm sure there's some people that back it, but the majority of people don't really back this war. They don't think it's a good idea. They think it was, just something that should have been avoided. In fact, that's what Donald Trump, his campaign was on. No new wars, no Middle East wars. That's how he got elected. And yet he's now, clearly broken that campaign promise. So there's a lot of people that feel betrayed. And that causes, when you're betrayed like that, especially when you felt like a lot of people that followed Donald Trump, and I was one of them in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, like in the very first term, like in 2014 or 2015, I never really liked Donald Trump. But when he came out for president, I was one of the people that thought, man, maybe this guy can do it. Maybe he's the guy. I'll never believe that in anybody again, because he fooled me, obviously. And after the first year in office, I realized what was happening, and I just saw through it. I always say that's the last time I'll believe in someone, but I keep doing it. So regardless, what's happening right now is scary. Is Trump going to pull like a Joker out of his sleeve, or does he have something that he's going to pull out? Maybe. It seems like he's always been able to do that in the past, but nobody knows what that is. Nobody seems to believe that exists. And any of the people that are talking about this, about moving forward and doubling down, tend to be people with very extreme religious views. And that's honestly the biggest concern to me, because, well, I'm a spiritual person, and people can have their religious values, spiritual, whatever it is, that's their business. But we're supposed to have a separation between church and state in you know, in the United States Constitution. The whole point of having the United States Constitution was to not be like England. They didn't want to be like the tyrants they were leaving. They don't want the Church of England or the Church of the United States or the Zionists of the United States or whatever to be the ones, you know, in charge of geopolitical diplomacy. Like, you can't have someone with a very extreme religious view being in charge of decisions like bombing another country. And it seems as if we may have put some people in charge that have these extreme religious views. And yes, I'm talking about Zionism. Zionism is an extreme view. Okay. The majority of people do not believe, if you were to ask them, that that Jewish people are supreme and chosen above all other people of the world. Okay. I don't think even an evangelical would agree with that if you got them alone and really asked, do you really believe that one race, it could be, and it's not about Jews, right? It's about this particular philosophy that they hold, right? That a third temple needs to be built, you know, that, which requires a mosque of another religion to be destroyed. This is an extreme philosophy. This is an extreme view, whatever you want to call it, religion, political theory, whatever it is. This is an extreme. The majority of people do not agree we need to bomb a mosque so we can build the third temple so that Jesus Christ will come back. This is not a common thought. At least I don't believe it is. I don't know anybody that believes that. But it does seem like our leaders, our politicians, at least the ones that are in any position to do something, believe that. And that's very concerning, right? So, Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, Marco Rubio are the ones I'm thinking of, you know, off the top of my head, but there are definitely going to be others. There will be others. Now, I don't want to have clickbait. I'm going to be on here for a little while and we'll be talking about some of these geopolitics things because I've been, you know, lost in it and I just need to get all my thoughts out. So, but I do want to talk about Professor Jiang because that's what the title says. So sorry to get to that so late. I should have started with it. Professor Jiang, I've been promoting him, if you want to call it that, on my channel. When I first found him several months ago, I shared him with everybody on my channel. And he says himself on his clips that, you know, you can share these, you can do whatever you want with them. Like, he's not going to copyright strike or anything. And he doesn't, because I've like broken up a lot of his talks into little talking points and put them in my short section. And I just want to say that I haven't listened to every single thing that I've necessarily posted in my shorts. Some of them I have, some I haven't. But it was essentially just to bring people in to discuss the ideas he's talking about. It doesn't mean I necessarily agree with everything he's saying or disagree with it. It's like up for discussion. I think he's a very good teacher. He's energetic. He's able to make connections and discuss things in a way that, you know, is interesting and sort of puts things into perspective. All that being said, I've never believed that like he's the be all end all and everything he's saying is true. I've never believed that. And, you know, the eschatology issue, the convergence of eschatology, I find very interesting that he talks about. We've talked about that. But some more questions are coming up now because he's been interviewed on Tucker where they had like almost a little crying session. And then he's been interviewed on, he was in Piers Morgan, and he's doing a lot of interviews with a lot of different people. And people are now starting to attack him. And this is common, right? Whenever somebody, I shouldn't say that. It's not common. Some people come out of nowhere and nobody attacks them. Other people come out of nowhere and people attack them. So I was listening to Jason Brashears, who you guys know I follow Archaics. I love his channel. He was talking with a man named Chris John Berknes, Berknes. And they were bitching, basically saying like, this guy is like not saying anything new. This Professor Jiang, you know, he's not saying anything new. And we all know all about this. You know, we all know what he's saying. We know about the game theory. That's been since the 1950s. And we know about, you know, these convergences, and we, and they're basically shitting on the guy, saying like he's not saying anything new, which means he's an operative, right? They're wondering like maybe is this guy an operative, which it's fair that they do that, but it's just very common. This happens all the time, right? People come, they see a new guy come up talking the same talking points and framing it the same way they do, and the guy's getting a lot of like press and stuff. The guy's going to get shit on by other people that have been around longer, that have been saying the same things, maybe just not as catchy as a way, right? And so they're saying like, these are my ideas, he stole my ideas, this and that. And it's like, okay, guys, but like, what's the guy actually doing, right? Like, what is this professor? Come on, baby. What is this professor actually doing that's like so horrible, right, for the people that are listening, like me and you, right? Like, if this guy's an operative, what is he saying that's like going to cause problems for me? Like, if I go full in on like Professor Jiang, right, or whatever, it's like everything he says is true, man. Like, he's obviously telling us the truth, right? What ultimate? I'm just like playing this out to its extreme end. What ultimately would believing what he's saying do to me, right? Well, it might make me feel more dejected about the future, because he's very, very pessimistic about what's happening in America. He also, I don't think, likes, I saw him in another interview, and you could see he does have a bit of disdain for Western culture, because he moved to Canada when he was 5 or 6. And I feel like he felt as if he was never really fully integrated and accepted into that society. And so, you have to take that into account, right? So like, does he hate the West, and this is his way to get back at us by like making us realize we suck and we need to all die? I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that's what he believes at all. I'm just saying, obviously, people are just humans, right? We're all just humans at the end of the day. And so he's going to have his intentions. Now, I watched a guy he's a Chinese guy who exposed the CCP agents, the Chinese Communist Party. And he talks about CCP a lot, and he exposes their propaganda and stuff like that. And he did a video on Professor Jiang, and he said, look, the guy could be a CCP agent. And the reason he said that he could be is because he's now living in China, even though he left China when he was 5 with his parents, grew up in Canada, and now he's back in China. So he said, if you look at what he's been discussing, a lot of the things he says are very in line with what the CCP says. So he's not saying anything critical of China that's against the CCP. And that's very important to recognize. And this was one of the things that we talked about. Dan mentioned it. Blue Murphy mentioned it. Different people. You guys are great. We talked about like, well, let's be a little more skeptical of this guy. What's he really about? So you have this Chinese guy who's defected. He's somewhere like in America, I think, now, talking about CCP stuff. And he says, a lot of Chinese think he could be CCP, Chinese in America. But the funny part was, he said a lot of people in China think he could be CIA, right? So like, everyone's kind of like sus of this guy, but they don't know whose side he's on, right? So it's really the effect of what he has. So I brought all that up to say, I'm still going to listen to him. I still think he has valuable input, but just like anybody else, including myself, take what you want, what interests you, and leave the rest. Nobody's going to agree with everything everybody does 100% of the time. And if he is some type of political operative, these people always show their hand eventually. So we'll find out one way or another, right? So that's kind of my thoughts on him in the time being. I just want to say hi to the chat. Hey guys. Hi Doc. Good to see you. Yep. Hey Blue Murphy. Okay, and YouTube's not allowed in China. Another good point. There you go. So how the hell is he getting through, right? How's he getting through? Yeah, so that's why I love talking to you guys too, because like, I'm a skeptic, but I get fooled too, And again, it wasn't like I'm 100% on board with the guy, and I'm not against him right now either. I'm just seeing him through a lens that I think is perhaps more realistic, and you kind of have to have that lens with everybody right now, because people are scared. Some people are scared. Some people are clueless. Some people are absolutely clueless as to what's going on. So I don't know if you guys saw, but President Trump was having a sit down with I think it's the president or prime minister of Japan. She's a woman. They elected a woman in Japan, which is awesome. And he was having a meeting with her. Do you want to go outside, baby? And she said to him very fairly, asked him, why didn't you tell us that you were going to strike Iran, right? Because everybody had war gamed this, apparently. And, people that it matters to has been war gaming this, that like if U.S. and Israel strike Iran or one or the other, then Strait of Hormuz is the first thing that's going to have trouble. And so this was like, this is a foregone conclusion. Like everybody knows you do this, this will happen. It's just like, it's like quantum entanglement, right? Like you can't do one without the other. So if everyone knows this, then why did you do this without telling us? Japan is asking. Because they get a large portion of their oil and stuff shipped through that area. And Trump's answer was, well, why didn't you tell us about Pearl Harbor? Okay. And while that's funny, if you're a comedian, if you're a stand-up comedian, that's funny. And I can kind of laugh at it humorously as if it's like funny. But at the end of the day, like that's our president. That's a very callous answer. Okay. And the truth is, like, I'm all about humor, guys. I am all about humor and lightening situation up. And it's one of the reasons why I did like him, because his sense of humor. But that's so incredibly callous, in my opinion. And I don't think I'm being overly sensitive to that. People, why didn't you tell us about Pearl Harbor? First of all, they did. Okay, it was a false flag. So let's start with that, Trump. It was a fucking false flag. Everybody knew that Pearl Harbor was happening. And the president at that time let it happen because they wanted World War II to happen. So let's just say that for the first part of it. But secondly, the reason why it's so callous is because listen to what the rest of the world has had to do, guys, since President Trump and Netanyahu have started this war. This is what the rest of the world is dealing with right now. Because in America we're not dealing with it, we really should be aware of what's happening with other people. Okay. So let me just pull this up so you understand what I'm talking about. Big variable. Just finding other countries and how they're reacting and what they're having their citizens do. Hold on 1 second. Countries with confirmed war-linked rationing or major utility disruption as of today. Okay. So direct internal shortages. Well, it's obviously had electricity blackouts and some local water supply cuts. Iraq has had a nationwide power grid collapse. I did not know that until I just read that to you. So Iraq has had a nationwide power grid collapse. So all the people that live in Iraq right now don't have any energy. Do you know how much suffering is going to come from that? Without clean water and ways to cook and to, purify and things like that. Do you know how much suffering will come from that? Government fuel rationing or emergency control. Bangladesh fuel rationing. South Korea fuel price caps. Severe fuel supply stress. Okay, the Philippines, Pakistan, and Vietnam. If you'd like, sorry. Okay. And Japan, as of now, Japan hasn't had to make any, impose fuel or electricity rationing, but it did make significant adjustments. And what they've done is they've released 80 million barrels of oil, which is about 45 days supply. So that's how they're floating themselves right now. They've got about 45 days of oil from their reserves that they've kind of put out there as part of International Energy Agency emergency action to stabilize the markets. The prime minister confirmed earlier in March that Japan holds roughly 254 days of oil reserves. But that's not even a full year, guys. And the problem is, one of the things I'm concerned about, come on in, come on, stop doing the barkies. Nobody wants to hear your bark. All right, mister, we don't want to hear it. Do you want lovin's? Come on, I'll give you a hug. Hey, come on. Come on. What I'm worried about is 254 days. That's not even a full year, right? And people are talking like this could turn into a Vietnam situation. Years, right? I mean, I'm hoping that's not what it is. I'm just giving both sides here, but okay, great. Like, I'm just one of those people. I'm about contingency plan on contingency plan. You better believe I've got freaking food stuff, but not a lot. I'll be honest, not a lot. Those like Patriot buckets or whatever. I've got those, but I mean, honestly, I'm not that prepared. I'm really not that prepared. I wish I was more prepared, but look, these people couldn't even afford to be prepared. These people that live in some of these countries. I mean, as Americans, we have really been living like royalty for a very long time. And I'm happy. I'm blessed that I grew up here. I love it. I'm so grateful. But when you look at the large scheme of things, like, how did I get lucky? Or how did somebody else get so lucky? And then somebody on the other side of the planet just grows up in war, or everybody dies and everybody's sick all the time. And there's no hope, or there's little, like, what we could have been over there. That could have been us. That's the whole point. I think that if people could just open their eyes and see that. And it's the majority, it's us, like the bigger collective, right? Get so focused on these narratives that we sell and get so attached to these people, and then they don't want to be wrong. And it's like, at the end of the day, we all just want to, be free and secure in our lives. And these people are waging war in these countries, and they're just destroying the world right now. Sorry, that was a tangent. Okay, Japan is rationing. They are working from home and clamped down on usage. What's up, Dan? What's up, guys? So happy to see you guys here. All right, so Japan. Okay, so oil prices in Japan have surged more than 25% since the conflict. Japan relies on the Strait of Hormuz for 93% of its oil imports. It's one of the most exposed countries to the conflict. This is the kind of stuff I want to know. This is the kind of stuff I think everybody should want to know right now, before they just start making like these like broad sweeping generalizations about a group of people or a country. I think it's important to really be careful about the rhetoric you use, whether it's online, with your family, with your friends. I'm not telling you not to speak your mind. I'm just saying, and I know you guys are thoughtful people and you really think it out, but I'm just concerned, like, these people that are just like, yeah, like, bomb them, get rid of them. It's like, you're talking about kids and families, people that have nothing to do with this conflict. It's just they're overlords fighting, right? And here's the thing I'll get to Iran in a minute. I'll get to what I think about Iran in a minute. All right. And so electricity prices rising. Japanese electricity prices jumped about 34%. Now, this says no rationing, but I believe Blue Murphy more than I believe this is AI I'm reading. So you have to be careful, obviously. Exactly. And it really does. I was listening to a guy, he's a big proponent of natural law, which is really something that I found is probably the philosophy I'm most aligned with. But he talks about how even if you look through the 10 commandments in the Bible, even if you're not a Christian, you can agree with the 10 commandments. Like, these are just like universal laws, right? But all of them are really just related to one thing, which is theft. Even killing is theft of a life, right? Abortion, theft of a life. Killing, theft of a life. Cheating, that's theft of safety and security of a person, So all these things are just thievery. It's why stealing is so bad. It's why it's so bad. And honestly, it feels like we've been, and this is what I don't want to sound like. Whenever you talk like this, like I'm about to say, people start to accuse you. I remember this I think it was in 2012, 2013, when I was talking on some forums like this. People would tell me I should be waterboarded, that I should be kicked out of the country, that I'm a traitor. I remember those days. And I feel like that could happen again right now, because war will make people very diametrically opposed. I mean, that's like the most opposed you can get: war. Kill or be killed. It's the most duality. It's the most dualistic fucking thing you can do. So humans are like, people that aren't thinking are going to just automatically go to it. But the reality is, like, there's nothing good about it. There's nothing good about war. And come on, baby. Come on. Want to come in? The problem is that it's already started. It's already started. Donald Trump seems to think that, whatever he touches turns to gold, and he's been surrounded by people telling him that. All right, so let's talk more about this. All right, now, one second, guys. So I asked how the United States is handling it, okay? On March 19th, the U.S. began an aerial campaign aimed at reopening the Strait of Hormuz after Iran disrupted shipping. President Trump postponed planned attacks on Iranian power plants for 5 days and reported talks. And we just talked about that. The Iranians are like, yeah, no, that's not true. That's not happening, right? We're not having talks with the president. He's full of crap. So 27 cents in 1 week. The national average, $3.25 per gallon, and the analysts warn it could hit about $1.50 per barrel. All right. Now, I asked it what could happen if this drags out for several months. Now that would actually be a optimistic, scenario if it was a few months, right? Because I unfortunately, from what I'm hearing from a lot of people who study this stuff, is that we're basically in a situation where we're stuck in this conflict for many years. That is what they're saying. I am not an expert, so it's possible there are other experts out there saying something completely different. Okay, I'm just kind of offering you perspectives here, because I don't think people understand what's happening very well. I know I don't, and so I'm talking through it by doing the YouTube video, essentially, because I think it's important. So it could push U.S. gasoline above $4 to $5 per gallon nationally. Trump's right. I'm winning so much. I'm sick of winning. Exactly. We're done, Donald. Can you fucking go now? Inflation pressure. We're definitely going to see food go up, airline tickets, consumer goods, right? Strategic reserve limits. The 172 million barrel. So we released 172 billions. But we can't sustain that, obviously, right? I don't know how much we have. I'm sure they're not going to tell anybody. 49% of Americans believe the war will hurt their personal finances. Yeah. Political pressure obviously would intensify. There's no U.S. rationing as of now, and large emergency oil release is underway and active military operations. If it continues, we're going to, obviously, people know, like higher fuel prices, broader inflation, increased economic strain. So there's some talking points online that you might come across where people are like, if this continues for another 2 weeks, global collapse is imminent. I just want to address that because that's extremely hyperbolic. And I feel like, well, yes, like the longer this continues, the more disruptions that occur. I just want to like reminisce about a few things. Reminiscing about 9/11, reminiscing about COVID, or anything else that we've gone through traumatically as a collective. nothing really happens quickly, right? Nothing is ever like one day this, the next day that, right? That is always the fear that they give us. They're always pushing that fear on us. Like, it's going to change. Like, you're going to be a slave. You're going to be a plastic person. You're going to have to sell your soul if you want to eat food or drink. I mean, these are the fears that they implant into our mind constantly. But in reality, in real life, we all know, even in our own situations, like if you're in a bad relationship, a breakup is never like, fuck you, I break up and you walk away. It's always different than that. It's never like black and white. It's always like, oh, a couple more months, you kind of, you know, loosely and, you know, sometimes it's like that. But the majority of things take time to unfold, and you adapt, and you people who are resilient are able to, you know, push through. And so I just wanted to kind of remind myself that, and you guys at the same time, because again, this isn't a fear channel. This is a channel where we're trying to just look at everything, right? We're trying to just look at everything and see what's happening. Now, this is possibly the wrong take, but I'm curious what you guys think about Iran. Iran, I've learned a lot about in the past couple of weeks, because before that I wasn't paying too much attention to it. If someone had asked me, I would have thought that it was a place that practiced Sharia law, and where all the women had to wear, you know, be covered and things like that. And it turns out that might be the wrong perspective. I think a lot of the women do cover their hair, but their face is very much out. And, you know, some of the professors from Tehran University in Iran, they're, I mean, they sound like a professor at a Harvard, or I don't know, any American university, right? And what they describe being done to Iran and their culture by the West, meaning United States and Israel, sounds like we've been really preventing them from growing for a long time. Now, this again is one perspective that I picked up on. I could be wrong, you know, but the United States and Iran were in Geneva, you know, talking allegedly, and then out of nowhere, the strike came. And all things are pointing to Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff as being the people who basically told Trump, you know, there's no talking with these people. You just need to strike. That's the line that keeps coming up. Is it true? I can't prove it, but it does seem to make sense, because we did talk about that in the past. The other thing is, I wanted to talk to you guys about in Islam, there was a house that was destroyed. A barber in the area got killed, and the mother spoke on camera, and it was really devastating. She lost her husband and her kids, her 2 kids. And then I saw another something from the Iran news, where these people who lost their kids in that girls' school or the kids' school are sleeping at the site where the bodies, where the kids died. That's now, again, is this real? Is this, you know, propaganda? That's the problem with these kind of things. It's something that seems like it could be plausible, right? It certainly seems plausible. And so, I mean, we talked about this before, but this is why I don't like government. You know, I don't like government in general, because this is, our government is doing this on the behalf of our entire country. And so that means, as an American, I am seen as consenting to this, even though I'm not, even though I didn't even vote at all, right? I'm not consenting to any of this that's going on. But yet I'm an American, so that's what they call manufactured consent. And so hopefully people who are from other countries, when they see Americans, just pray that you meet people that will judge you first as who's in front of them before they judge you for being an American, right? we haven't, I know in America, we haven't always given that same respect to other cultures or races. I have, though. I've always done that. And that's how I live my life. And I think a lot of people live their lives that way. It's only when you get swept up in some type of collective or cult in which a narcissist is running things, and narcissists don't have any empathy. All they want is control and power. And then people buy into that. And that's what's so dangerous about, like, worshiping personalities and things like this. Because anybody who wants to be worshiped is probably a narcissist at heart. Anybody who wants to be in charge of the whole country is probably a narcissist at heart. And that's why I just don't believe in that stuff. I don't believe in a hierarchy of government. I do think that there are people who have natures to be leaders and natures to be healers and natures to be scientists and things like that. And I think we all have those natures. That's why I think the Myers-Briggs is really fascinating. We'll still do a members only on it. But those are the kind of things that the world I want to live in is what's nurtured. When a child is born, based on their parents and ancestry, you can trace back and say, oh, this is a long lineage of healers. This is probably going to be another healer. Let's test them at this age. Are they good? Maybe they're not. Maybe they're the newest one in the family to be a scientist or whatever. But don't tell me you can't figure this shit out. They're doing DNA and CRISPR where they want to like replace your DNA so one thing stops happening. Of course, we could have been raising our children this way all along. But that's not our culture. I want to live in a culture like that, though. I want to live in a culture where people help each other out, not just your family, but your neighbor. And the person that's in charge isn't like the one that makes all the decisions. They're just the one that wants the burden and the responsibility. But they're not bombing shit without consulting the rest of the village. And I don't think that's impossible. And people will say that's impossible, but I don't think it is. I don't even think it's impossible to start it now. If we all went and bought 200 acres somewhere near a water source and everybody combined, everybody's got skills. Everybody has skills that can help, right? You don't need money to live. You can make it without money. You just need to know how to find the water, the these kind of things, right? And we're all just so dependent on our creature comforts at this point. Some people are so ingrained that they're going to look at me like I'm crazy, that they would never want to do it. But I'll tell you something, I would do it. If I had a group of people that wanted to do it with me, I would do it. I don't have any affinity to hold on to these like plastic things that they promote to buy more and more of, or more and more shit that nobody needs. How many pair of pants, shoes, shirts, jackets, hats does one person fucking need? So that was a really long tangent, guys. Wow. Sorry about that. Trust the science. Yeah. Right. Come on. All right. Let me see here. Share screen. All right. I wanted to read something from the Haaretz. It's called Haaretz. This is a Jewish Israeli newspaper. Okay. This is interesting. Let's look at this one. Okay. It says, hello, girly. I love you. I'm in the middle of moving. I got 3 days left in my small little ass town. We're moving. I may have to become a ninja. Oh, I see. Thank you. Oh my God. Thanks for listening, girl. So, despite Iran's denials, Brooke, thanks for being here. Despite Iran's denials, Israeli officials believe the U.S. is talking to Tehran directly. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Is there some kind of a rift between the U.S. and Iran? Israeli officials say the U.S. is talking with the Iranian parliament speaker and foreign minister Abbas Araghchi, who both deny the talks are underway. A Western diplomat told Haaretz that while talks aren't taking place, the ground is being tested. Okay. I like to read the comments. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let's read the comments under here because people always talk shit under these things. Let's see. Let's see. Iran needs not to lose to win the war. The U.S. and Israel need total victory. Interesting. Yeah, it's a good point. Let's see here. Trump, U.S. in talks with Iran aimed at long-term guaranteed peace for Israel. I don't know how that's even possible. I mean, really? Isn't that what we've been trying to do for 50 years or more? Let's see the comments. Here we go. Trump, United States in truth talks with Iran aimed at long-term guaranteed peace for Israel is a lofty ambition, but is it even theoretically possible in circumstances that have generated more wars and conflicts than those of any other throughout the entire region and places elsewhere? That's Merck. On the face of Israel's supreme leader says, talk all you want, but I will torpedo anything you come up with. These are comments in the Haaretz, Israeli newspaper, which you can buy in America too. My father-in-law used to get this and the other one. Iran Ayatollah are surroundings. They lost their Air Force and Navy. Iran Ayatollah are surroundings. They lost all the high command. The soldiers are giving up the fight. I don't know. Trump writes about conversations which will continue. And he says, note the which, because it's spelled W-I-T-C-H. Trump always does that with his messages. He puts an extra, an extra comma, or he spells something funny, you know? Who can forget Kofifi? Astounding. It's absolutely astonishing, mind-boggling how much shit can come out of the mouth or tweets of one man. Jay Hansen. I get tired of saying it, but if Trump's mouth is open, he's lying. It doesn't matter. Whether or not there are negotiations, Israel's supreme leader will ensure any such negotiations are sabotaged so that the state of war is perpetuated. Paul Joseph, the recently assassinated supreme leader, had issued a fatwa. I've heard this. What do you guys think about this? Have you heard that he had issued a fatwa against the development of nuclear weapons and agreed to a ceasefire for the 12-day war that many of the younger Iranian officials opposed? The new ruling elite will not stop until it's convinced that the whole world has learned a lesson it will never forget and will certainly be determined to deter attacks such as it is now experiencing by the development of nuclear weapons. All the United States and Israel have done is make Iran an even more dangerous threat by enhancing the resolve and determination of its leaders. And that's kind of what I'm concerned about. I feel like we've just created a freaking monster over here, honestly, with Iran. It's just getting to be like, Iran is not going to, they can't give up. And there are people, if you look, and this has been called AI by Trump, and people who say this is real apparently get trolled and shit. But you can look yourself and see it. And there are professors in Iran saying this. Now, again, are they lying? I don't know, maybe. But at some point, I got to think. It makes sense that the people in Iran are pissed. Okay. It makes sense because Islam is a republic. It looks like it's almost like a secular place. Now, I'm not saying I want to live in Iran. I'm not saying I would even visit Iran. Okay. Because I don't actually know all the ins and outs. But this is how it's being presented right now, at least in any stuff that I can find. Okay. Iran is presenting itself as we don't know what's going on. We're the good guys. We don't do any of this stuff, But of course they would have to do that. They're not going to say they're the bad guys, right? Why would they? But the truth is, I don't know if they are the bad guys. We're just told they are. But when you look at it from a bigger lens, and you could go back in history, and I can't go back that far, but I can just say this, that they've created this group of people in the Gulf, these group of countries like Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iraq, those kind of countries. And they're supposedly sort of allies with the U.S., we kind of use their airspace and their places on their countries to launch missiles at Iran from. Okay. And Iran is like not, they're just like, fuck you guys. Because that's why they're bombing them now. That's why they're bombing Bahrain and UAE and Dubai and shit. Because they feel like they're traitors. They feel like the people that live in those Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia and such, Iran looks at them like pussies because all they've been doing is like US is bidding and making money, right? That's all it turns out these people have been doing in our government. The money that was supposed to be spent on defense didn't even get spent on defense. So we need more money for war, apparently. I don't know where the fuck they're going to get that. Just print it, take out more loans from the Rothschild, enter a new level of hell, Trump. I don't know. But the thing about it is like, we're told that like we need to make all these more, we need to give more money for these munitions and things like that. But isn't that what we've been paying so much money for in taxes to begin with? Like, I'd really like to know where our taxes get. Like, how do you track that money? I'd really like to know that. It's probably almost impossible. I feel like I saw a video on it once and the guy was like, he asked, you have to know how to ask the right question is what it is. If you want to break open any story or really put anybody off guard or get anybody to understand that you know what's going on, it's the right question that you ask that gets you there. So I'll have to look into that about taxes. And then you have to ask certain people, you know. And if they get mad, then you know you're onto something. But right now, America isn't under any rations. And I'm thinking to myself, I think it would be better if we were. And I say that because then maybe people would understand that we have skin in this game. You know, I think some people think that like, oh, we can just bomb Iran and fucking nuke places over there. And are you even considering, like, all I think about are the families of children, of women just finding out they're pregnant today and then a bomb drops on their village and their parents die. Or, you know, they're giving birth and their husband is on the way there and he gets killed by some kind of strike. I mean, these are the things that are going through my mind. This is happening. And it's not that it hasn't happened before. It's just that our country is directly responsible for this stuff right now. And the president hasn't really spent much time trying to convince us that this is a good thing. And so we're kind of left to fill in the blanks as to what the fuck is happening. Because it doesn't make sense. He had to know, Trump had to know that it would have ended up this way. I mean, I'm not even a geopolitical expert, but like, if you look at the straight up, you know how many videos have been done and lectures and geopolitical military games? You know how many times that's been like mapped out, the Strait of Hormuz? So it has to be assumed he knew. You have to assume he knew this would happen. He can pretend like he didn't, whatever, but he knew. He knew. And so if he knew, then you think, well, does he have a game plan? Like, what is his plan? It really, you know, he's being really erratic right now. He says one thing, then he says another. For example, he told them they have 48 hours to open the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran is just like, yeah, right. Like, Iran is literally laughing. If you see any of these leaders, they're smirking and being like, yeah, we've been planning this for 20 years and we're pretty pissed off. And we got a lot of energy left in this fight. We are going to give a lot of energy. That's how we're showing up here, with a lot of energy. And they are. A professor that I was listening to last night, I can't remember his name, but apparently he has a $1 million bounty on his head that was listed on X, and Elon Musk has decided to not take that tweet down, which is absolutely insane. But God bless this man, because he's continuing to speak. He's a professor and he's telling you what he sees, what he knows of his country and what's happening. And people don't like it. because what he's saying is contrary to what they've been told maybe their whole life, or maybe what they want to believe. I don't know. I don't get angry when I hear him. I feel just a very big disappointment, and I feel sad, but then I also feel like angry for the Iranian people when I hear what he says, right? Does that make me a traitor? No. I think that that's the danger, though. When you start to show any kind of compassion or empathy for what's considered the enemy, in times of war, you will be labeled very easily as treasonous or traitors. Not today, but if it continues, those things become treasonous and traitorous to say. Even with Tucker Carlson, whatever you want to think of him, and I'm going to be honest, I'm back on the fence again. I was like really in his camp, like firmly like 85, 90% in his camp. And now I'm probably back like 50-50 with Tucker, just like I am with Candace, just back to 50-50, right? Because I can't really ever look, it's better than I am with any other newscasters, because those I won't even listen to. You know, I'm not listening to anybody else. Chris Cuomo went to Israel. What did he report? He probably had to leave because they told him, get the fuck out of here unless you want us to kill you. Israel and Iran, neither one of them want us to see what's happening. So it's hard to know. This is just my thoughts on it. The last thing I wanted to talk about today was Erica Kirk. Hold on for 1 second. I just want to check my chat. Yep. Doesn't care. Yeah. Yeah, of course Melania is Melania would never let her son go to war. Never. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't either. I don't have a son, but if I had one, look, what I would tell any kid who is college age right now, and this includes girls too, because remember, women have to be fucking equal. So let's draft 18-year-old girls to the war. Holy fucking shit. I would recommend to all of those people to enroll full-time in college right now. Enroll full-time in college, even if you fucking get C's or D's and you don't care. The cheapest college you can find, because at least you won't have to go in the draft. Are you a draft dodger? Yeah, you are. Why the fuck would you want to fight this war? Look, if someone feels compelled to, they should. That's for sure. But if Melania isn't sending Barron, then why should anybody's kids go? Seriously. Even if she was sending him, though, nobody's kid. It makes me really upset, honestly, when I think about it too much. So. And yet I still love America, right? Like, America really is, if you think about it, as bad as we are right now. And we are in a decline and stuff in a lot of ways, but we really are a pretty cool country. I mean, compared to the rest of the world, you know, we really are a pretty fucking cool country. Americans and America are. I'm not talking about our current government, okay? And even the way we were founded, it just sucks because the Constitution is such a brilliant piece of work, right? It's really just truly brilliant. And all the things they talk about with human rights, but you cannot ignore that when the Constitution was written, Black people were not considered human beings, and neither were women. You can't ignore that. You know, and I thought about that recently. I'm like, oh, they're so brilliant and this and that. They were brilliant, but they were flawed because they had this idea that they were superior. Their race was superior than Black people. And so they could own them, right? I mean, this is the reality of our country. That honestly, if someone like, I don't know, Jimmy Carter or just somebody, even Bill Clinton, had just fucking acknowledged that, I really think that's what, I'm not Black, I'm not speaking for Black people. I'm saying if I was Black, that's what I would want. I really don't need much. I just acknowledge the fact that yes, like this is fucking brilliant. The Constitution's awesome. The Bill of Rights is awesome. All that's great. But when it was written, the founders were flawed. They were short-sighted. They were flawed. They were morally, honestly, in my opinion, they were immoral. Because to consider owning another person, it's a hard stop. It's a hard line. It's immoral. So I would just say, yeah, the founders were immoral too. It doesn't make the Constitution less brilliant. I'm just going to say, unfortunately, you have to say brilliance is brilliance, but it doesn't mean that they were like figures to look up to, because you've got Thomas Jefferson, who was having sex with his slaves, and his descendants now should have rights to his things or whatever. And some of them are Black Americans. Of course they should. And yet he felt that he was better and could own them. That's a morally corrupt and bankrupt way to view anything. So in that sense, like, how do you even respect a man like that? Well, you can say, well, that was the time. Like, that's how things were during that time. Okay. I mean, I guess. But I don't, some people are just indoctrinated, things like that. So the point I'm trying to make is, yes, I love America, but we are deeply flawed, even in the way we were founded. It's a lot of good, but also a lot of bad. And honestly, we don't really know the true history of the land that we're on right now. We've been told that Christopher Columbus came over here, right? And very well could have, with the what is it, the Santa Maria, the Mia, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, the something, the Pinto, the Santa Maria. So was that Spain? I believe it was Spain. I know everybody calls him Italian, but wasn't that Spain that sent him to America? And weren't people already living here when he got here? Weren't they? Didn't England probably already know that? I feel like they probably did. I really do. I feel like they probably knew that there was a whole population of people living here already. And so, yeah, like our Constitution is flawed in the sense it was written by men who were immoral. But our country was built on a great idea. So I think you can save some of that and acknowledge it and go from there, But again, I'm not really with government. So, because I think eventually this is why this happens. And a lot of history right now, there's a big sort of trend in terms of history being a cycle, like 123-year cycle or 38-year cycle, 138-year cycle. And apparently that's all it takes, 138 years to reset and like confuse people. And that would make sense, because it's why nothing really is making a perfect narrative. Nothing really quite fits ever. There's always this mystery left over. There's never just like a puzzle that you can satisfy. You can never be like, oh, who killed JFK? All right, I'll take this piece of puzzle and this and this and this and put it all together. So you're like, okay, I can set that aside. Okay, how did 9/11 happen? And you can't do it. It's impossible. You cannot possibly. And I don't even think the people that were involved can even possibly understand all the details at this point. So it's like there's always this mystery, and it's because it's all lies. It's all built on illusion and lies. And I think that's what they mean by a simulation, right? Because a real world would be where like I'm responsible for a lot more in my life. In other words, like I'm responsible for, more in the sense of like, I feel like physically and just like, I get it. Like, I guess I'm getting a little bit off on a tangent. I'm also getting tired. I want to talk about Charlie Kirk before I forget, but I'll finish that thought. I don't know if I could live like that. I just feel like I don't know what else to think now. This is just not it, and it's concerning, especially when there's so many people in the world that suffer and then others have so much. And that's, I think, why people become communists or socialists or what they call Democrats or whatever, because they're just like, I don't like billionaires. They shouldn't have all that money. I don't care if the billionaires have all that money. I just don't want them to like run the world with it, And so that's why it becomes a problem. Who knows? Even if you do everything right, does the world still end up like this? Is it our nature to like hurt each other and and do all this? I don't know. All right, so let's come back down from that zoom out. Let's talk about Charlie Kirk and Joe Kent. So apparently Joe Kent, before my thing got taken off, Joe Kent is he was the director of counterintelligence, counterterrorism intelligence for Donald Trump. And on the 18th of March, he gave a resignation letter in which he discusses that, he disagreed with this war on Iran and that he believes Trump was basically led into this war by Israel and that he's now going to, he's resigning. And Trump said two things to it. He was good. And what's the other one? The second one he said was, but he wasn't great with security. So I thought that was really interesting that he said he wasn't great with security. Because Trump doesn't ever say anything for no reason. He says things always for a reason. He's very much like that. And so I was like, well, so who is Joe Kent? Like, what's the story? So I went around the internet. I'm listening to different people talk about Joe Kent. Of course, Joe Kent is now being attacked as a traitor. He's treasonous. How could he do this? I will say that him resigning and saying he didn't agree with the war, that's one thing. And I could understand that. That I could say makes total sense. But when he added that it's Israel that's leading the president and he feels that's a huge allegation to make, in my opinion. And it's also a dangerous one. That's a sitting president. And Joe Kent literally just said he's under the control of a foreign nation. That's a big fucking deal, right? But it seems like nobody's talking about it. Nobody wants to say anything about it. For him to say that, that's extremely bold, all right? So either he feels that strongly about it, which, okay, or what else would we expect? Well, people are calling him a spy. He's a leaker. He's this and that. He's done 11 tours. He's a Green Beret. He's a veteran. He's a Gold Star husband, which means he lost his wife in Iraq from a suicide bomber. So he knows combat. He knows loss. He's seen it all, right? He knows what it's about. And I believe, he had regrets about the wars in the Middle East and stuff, which is what you'd want, someone who has experience and wisdom in terms of what this really means when you go to war. But people are saying, he's a bad guy, like he's a sympathizer with Iran or somebody else. And I'm like, that's another huge claim, right? So a lot of these huge accusations are being thrown about, and we really don't know what's true and what's not. One of the latest things I heard, though, and I thought this was really interesting, so I brought it up because we've been following Charlie Kirk's scenario here and the assassination and trying to understand that. And, it turns out that, do you remember, if you were watching Candace Owens, she showed a series of tweets and she said, this is the group chat that was leaked to me. It was sent to me by somebody in the military, in the administration, or in the military, American administration. And it's a group of people who are the Jewish donor class or whatever, with Charlie, and they are discussing, Iran or something to that degree. And Charlie says he's having second thoughts. And then he also says he's thinking about inviting Candace back. Now, Candace was not part of that group chat, okay? And she made that clear at the time. She said someone sent this to her. Someone sent her these group chats, okay? And it was someone who wanted people to believe Candace. The person who sent it clearly was like, hey, Candace, I got your back. Here's some receipts. Show them. This is the donors that said yada, yada, okay? Well, it turns out that one of the people that was on that text chain that got outed or whatever, which I'm not saying names, I don't know if anybody gave the names, but one of them, and I don't even remember his name, but he was being interviewed and he said that the person who leaked that to Candace is Joe Kent. That's what he said. He said Joe Kent is the person who leaked the group chat to Candace. because Joe Kent was also in the group chat. That's how he had it. And Joe Kent, it turns out, is really good friends with Charlie Kirk behind the scenes. I had no idea. Okay. So this is just getting more and more interesting. All right. So I can't wait until Candace comes back. I don't know what she's going to bring. We'll see. People show themselves with time. If she's true blue and has good intentions, we'll see that with time. I'm going to keep watching her until I figure it out. Same with Tucker. Same with Joe Kent. I'm not sure. I don't know what to think of Joe Kent. I'm not going to call him a traitor. I'm going to say that he's said some explosive things that on any other news day would be blowing up, especially because it's against Trump. And it's not even being touched by the media. So pretty wild. And at this point with Erica Kirk, I mean, it's really and back to Trump. When Trump said that when he said he's not great with security, there was some allegations now that Joe Kent had something to do with lax security at Butler, which is where Trump, I believe, had a false flag assassination attempt, but maybe it was a real one. I still think it was false flag because of the way he walked into the emergency department. It was just so ridiculous. If a president actually got shot in his ear like that, okay? Think about it. Any medical people, think about this. If a president, the leader of the free world, was in a rally and he got shot in his ear, would real Secret Service people who weren't told to act, would real Secret Service people allow the president to stand up with his head and his chest exposed and say, fight, fight, fight? Would that happen? It would not happen. I know myself, if it was just my friend or whatever on the stage and their ear got clipped and they tried to get up, I would tackle the bitch and be like, bitch, stay down. Someone just tried to kill you. And that's not the president. And I'm not a freaking detail for somebody. So common sense rules always. And that was my first sign that this is bullshit. It was right before the election. He needed a boost and it gave it to him. Like, full stop. That's what it was. And then the next clue that this was bullshit, okay, is when they show him walking off the stage and walking to the emergency. That's not going to happen ever. It's just not ever going to happen in real life. Think about it. If you were at an event and there was somebody on the stage that got shot in the ear, would you expect them to just be like holding their ear with a bunch of people walking around them and like just fight, and walking? Would you expect that to happen? Think about it. Really, would you do that if you just got shot in the ear? If you just got shot in the ear, would you get right back up and do fight? Think about it. No. The amount of shock that you would be in, you wouldn't be able to stand right back up again. How the fuck do you stand right back up again and start shouting fight after there's too much shock going on there? I don't think you could even stand. I bet you couldn't even get 2 words out. But no, he's so courageous. But the part that sealed it for me was when he walked into the hospital. It's impossible. You're just not, I don't care if you're the president. Your ass is going to be in a chair, or you're going to be you just got shot in the ear. We got to check out everything. You don't just walk in and it doesn't happen that way. And that's what they do with all these false flags. Like the Charlie Kirk one, I don't believe that's real either. I'll never believe it's real. I don't know if he's dead or alive. I'm not saying, but the way they staged it doesn't look real. And the same thing with the girl in the Capitol, the January 6th, Ashley, what was her name? That was totally fake. I rewound and looked at every detail of that shooting, the way she fell back, the way there was no blood, the way suddenly after this guy came over that was trying to help her, blood squirted everywhere, like minutes after the gun. Like, it was ridiculous. And the type of stuff and then they carried her down they would never do that in a real life scenario. If a woman got shot on the steps in the Capitol, an ambulance would pull up closest to the entrance. They would get a gurney out. They would take it up the steps, which were plenty wide, and they would put that woman on the fucking gurney and they would walk her down. Okay? Even in like a house, they won't let you walk down the steps if you're that unsteady. She was just shot. There's no fucking way that a bunch of people would just carry her outside. It doesn't work that way. That's how I know they're full of shit. It's just absolute horseshit, you know? And I'm tired of pretending like I don't see that. I see it. It's dumb. It's bullshit, you know? So, anyway, sorry, that was a big rant. But yeah, so it's like, I think everybody knows. I mean, people know. Everybody's awake to this shit now. Everybody knows, you know? So I think it's important to just keep an open mind. I'm doing this as much for myself as anybody that's listening, you know? It's I've been feeling kind of sad the past couple days, and I don't like it. And I guess nobody likes to feel sad, but if I'm honest, it's the sadness of the world. It's the sadness of people dying of innocent death. Okay. There's a sadness that has overcome me the past couple days, and it's been tough, you know, to not think about it. I won't live in this sadness because it's not helpful or healthy, but I need to talk about it to help me sort of process it, because it makes me very sad what's happening. And I'm not afraid. I don't think anyone should be afraid. Okay. But you know, and who knows how this is going to end up. We just don't know. If we look at what the experts are saying, this has changed America forever, you know. And I do want to talk about that just a little bit because that's real. You know, I think America has kind of felt like that for a while. We had Joe Biden in the White House, and, you know, we're now wondering who was the auto pen. I mean, Trump made a joke about it. That one actually, it was funny, but it's not funny. Where he put all the presidents' portraits up and he put Joe Biden instead of his face, he put the auto pen. So, you know, an investigation into what was actually going on those 4 years would be great, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. I feel like our great experiment, the American experiment, is coming sort of to an end in some senses. Doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. But it's sad, you know, it's sad in some ways. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everything will turn out okay. Maybe Donald Trump has a trick up his sleeve. I don't really know. Iran has already said, you know, even if there was some kind of truce, okay, what's Iran going to want? Well, they're going to want $1 trillion now because of all the damage that Israel and the United States has done to their country. They want $1 trillion. They're going to want reparations, $1 trillion. That's a lot more than $2 billion that Donald Trump wants for the war. But regardless, that's what they want. And they're probably going to want a few other things, like for the United States to fuck off and not be in their business about their nuclear program. Does the United States even have any ability to make those determinations anymore? I mean, we look kind of weak, guys. In my opinion, it looks kind of weak. I have to be honest. Donald Trump is coming out. He's being erratic. Now, part of that is just art of war. You know, you don't want your enemy to ever know what you're doing, even though pretty much everybody knows what everybody's thinking at this point. Because of AI and the probability machine and the looking glass, it really fucks with people, I think, in the higher ups. So he's playing a game, acting like everything's fine, but honestly, I don't think everything is fine. I mean, just looking at it as a person without a ton of knowledge about geopolitics, we attack Iran and Israel joins in, and you know, we say that, you know, we want to shut them down, obliterate them, get rid of the Islamic regime. The way that we do that is by killing the 84-year-old Ayatollah. This is like the beloved religious leader of their country, as far as I can tell. So that's just going to piss people off. That's like killing the Pope or something, right? I'm not a fan of the Pope, but I'm just saying, like, imagine like somebody directly targeted the Pope. They were pissed at Italy. Okay? Not the president or prime minister or whatever in Italy, but the fucking Pope. You want to piss off people? You want to piss off Italians? fucking kill the Pope, all right? You'll start a real big war with the Italians. So what do you think Iran are any different? Do you think Iranians are any different? Are we supposed to believe that the Ayatollah was like such a piece of shit that people were going to cheer when the United States killed him? I don't think so. I think they fucked up. That was the first thing they fucked up on, is killing a beloved religious leader. I don't know. Was that guy evil? You guys tell me. You know? It's like, so they killed the religious leader of the country. Like, what the fuck was that for? Seriously, what was that for? The guy, as far as I can read, anywhere I read, and this could be propaganda, but I'm going to say this is what I'm hearing everywhere. More than one source, by 3 sources now, that man had issued a fatwa on nuclear weapons. He had issued a fatwa. There was no building of nuclear weapons. He actually tampered down the young ones that were pissed off. And you kill him? Why? Why? I can't stand that. Okay, so fine. You kill him. That strategy is above and over my head. And yeah, now people are pissed. You thought they were going to be happy. They're not happy. They're actually in the streets chanting, and bombs come and they don't flinch. They'll die for their freedom. They want their freedom. They're tired of being told what to do by Israel and the United States. They're tired of it. And you would be too. I think I would be. Again, I'm not saying I want to move to Iran. I'm not saying everything they do is perfect. I don't know all of their religion, culture, all that stuff. I don't. But from what they're putting forward and what I'm hearing and seeing, it feels like our strategy on this war was not a good one. It just feels like it wasn't really considered thoughtfully before it happened. And now that it's happened, Iran is not reacting the way that the U.S. military told us they would. Oh, we're going to bomb them. It's going to take a couple. He thought it would be like Venezuela. He thought it would be like Venezuela. But Venezuela is on our continent, and they're not far away from us. Iran is not only not on our continent, it's in a different part of the world entirely, where they think completely differently than we do. So differently that it would probably feel like they were aliens if we understood, because of the circumstances in which they grew up in. But I still care about them as human beings, as fellow human beings, because that could be me or you. Any of our souls could have been incarnated over there. We just happen to be over here. That's the only difference. That's why I'm trying to understand it. And so Iran, they're pissed. They want freedom. They're almost like the people who left England and came to America, how angry they were. It's almost like how angry Americans were during the Revolutionary War, if there was such a thing. That's how pissed the Iranians are at the United States and Israel right now. So, and people in the Middle East are calling Donald Trump Putin's puppet, not Putin, I'm sorry, Netanyahu's bitch, basically. That's what they think of Donald Trump. That is not going to make him very happy. He likes to be loved. Donald Trump wants to be loved. Nobody likes him right now. Nobody. Because he just did something really fucked up. So let's see if Teflon Don can get us out of this. I just feel like that would be ridiculous, But what else? I mean, I guess in some ways it wouldn't surprise me. But Iran's not. They don't want to. They're not ready to be diplomatic right now. They're done with that. So I don't know how it's possible. We'll see. I like how they're now. They're like trying to spread like U.S. Israel are against each other. They want to piss people off. Hi, Donald. Thanks for being here. They're going to say it was a mass alien abduction. It was not. It was the rapture. Believe in Jesus Christ. Thanks for being here. Alpha Zebra, the Anglo-Saxon mission. If Trump seriously was, I would have to rethink the assassination. Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying, Doc, right? Like, if someone has a bullet, okay? That was the other thing. This fucking guy that has a picture of the bullet, have you seen that? That was another reason why I thought it's a psyop. There's no way you're going to have a picture of the bullet as it's flying through the air towards the president's ear. Bullshit. I call it bullshit. There's no fucking way. I don't believe it. Okay. So yeah, but like imagine you're standing there talking, you're all whatever you're doing, and then a fucking bullet comes by and nips the top of your ear. First of all, your hearing, okay? The way that came, absolutely, it's going to make you feel upbound. None of it made sense. You don't fall down and jump back up and start talking. It just doesn't work that way. It's not, it doesn't make sense, you know? And so common sense is important. But yeah, I don't believe in aliens. So anybody who says it's an alien abduction, I don't believe it. I think a lot of the people who say they were abducted by aliens were abducted by people in U.S. government and taken to places and given things to make them think they were being worked on by aliens. That's my opinion. I think that's a long-standing project the government has to scare people about aliens. I don't believe aliens are real. I do believe that there are evil and demonic energies. That's different, though. And I also believe there are people on the earth that live here that we don't see, that they live underground in certain areas and that they've been there for centuries. I believe that too. This is just based on stuff I've read and experienced over my lifetime. It doesn't mean any of it's true. It's just my perspective. Yeah, it was definitely. Which channel are you watching? Bones, how you doing, Bones? Chuck Swindle Jr. How evil infiltrated global power. I'll check that out. All the clues monitoring the situation can. Check out this video. It is wild. It has all the clues. I don't know what video it is, though, doll. It just has. Oh, is it called Monitoring the Situation? Let me see here. All right. So this was the other thing I wanted to talk about because they were talking about like, you know, oh, this we're going to collapse, systemic failure, the end of humanity, all this shit. Okay. So let's just bring it down a little notch here. Archaics. Yeah. I like archaics. Okay. Yeah. Archaics is awesome, right? Isn't it awesome? I'm glad you like it. All right. These are disruptive, but not systemic. This is a normal crisis. Okay. Oil spikes about 110 to 130, but it remains tradable. Tanker insurance premiums surge, but ships still transit with escorts. Okay. Strategic reserves are released in coordinated fashion, United States, Japan, EU. And stock markets fall 5 to 10%, but credit markets function normally. Central banks communicate clearly and funding markets stay liquid, and Strait of Hormuz traffic drops, but does not stop. This is like an expensive, intense sort of situation that we're probably in right now. But these are the signs if anybody's worried about systemic risk. I agree, Bones. I agree about the AI. These would indicate we're entering a more dangerous territory. So for people who are like me, who are always on like fucking a swivel because we feel the need to control everything. Just being honest, because I'm learning to understand that part of the reason I do this is because I want to understand and predict before things happen. But at the end of the day, you can't really, there's not much you can do. It's going to happen. But regardless, if you want to have some sense of control, feeling like you have some sense of control, these are the things that you would look out for that would be that we're entering in dangerous territory. If there's an actual physical halt of tankers, and it's happening for weeks at the Strait of Hormuz, if major shipping firms refuse transit entirely, or if naval escorts fail to secure passage, that would be concerning. So we want to keep our eye on, is there an actual halt of the traffic, which there hasn't been, because Iran has said anyone that's not its enemies is free to go through the strait. It's free to go. It's free to go. Its enemies are, I believe, the United States and Israel. Now, they may believe their enemies are more than that, depending on, because they're definitely not happy with their brothers and sisters in the GCC. They feel like they have betrayed them. So they're not happy about that. And I don't really blame them. I mean, these people in the GCC are whining and dining, making deals with Donald Trump. You can be mad at Biden, and I was mad at Biden for all the bullshit in Ukraine causing that war. But at the end of the day, like, look at what Donald Trump is up to, some shit way worse than that. This shit is way worse. And the amount of money he's going to make is way more than the Bidens ever made off Ukraine. Okay? Like, we thought Biden, anybody who thought Biden was bad, I hope they see that Trump is the same and worse. Okay? At least that's what he's turned into at this point. Because he's making a lot of money. He's making connections for his family. And, it's pretty, he is operating full on as a businessman with selfish, completely selfish goals, in my opinion. The way he operated with Japan, think about it. We're supposed to be Japan's ally, and we just fuck them like that and don't even tell them. That's bad. I mean, if you had a friend like that, think about a friend that was behaving like the United States is right now. Would you still be friends with them? Because I wouldn't. If I had a fucking friend who's like, yeah, don't worry about those Epstein files anymore. What's the problem? I'd be like, excuse me, bitch? If I had a friend that was like, yeah, I'm just going to bomb the Strait of Hormuz, and then, like, I'm not telling anybody. And I was Japan. Excuse me, bitch? Like, stop it. Think about it. You would not want a friend that was behaving that way. The rest of the world doesn't want it either. So we're really making ourselves look really bad. It doesn't matter how much we've helped in the past. It really doesn't matter. When you go like this hard, people, they don't forget. People will remember this shit for a lifetime and more. There are kids. I saw a little boy vowing revenge on the West for his father's death. It's a 10-year-old little boy in Iran. He hates us. He hates us. It's all you do is create things like that when you kill people. It's all you fucking do. It doesn't solve anything. It never has. It's a bunch of people who are so angry at each other. They determine that they can't sit down and talk. So they're just going to fucking fight. That's what we are at the end of the day. We are people who have people in charge of us who cannot sit down and talk. They want to fight instead. And it's pretty devastating because these are supposed to be like people that have humanity, intelligence, whatever. They don't, though. It's what it turns out. They don't, right? It's all impulse. You can dominate someone. You can dominate a country. And I believe we've dominated a lot of countries over the years with rhetoric. And it could have continued that way. if we kept the moral high ground. But you can't dominate or at least have any respect as a country if you don't have any morality. And the way that Donald Trump is behaving right now doesn't feel like he has any morality. And it's highly concerning because it really makes us look even worse to the rest of the world. And I think we should be able to talk about that, you know? Um, it's just a shame. Anyway. So if there's physical shipping that gets halted, then that's a problem. All right, that's number one. If there's a major energy infrastructure destruction, so if there's sustained damage to Saudi, UAE, Qatari, like the GCC, if there's sustained damage there, then that's going to be a problem. Losing the transit is one thing, but losing production capacity is much worse. All right, Dal, thanks for listening. No, we don't have any. Your reserves are in Louisiana? What the fuck? What's the weather there? Oh my God. Then it says if there's a credit mark freeze. This is a big one to watch for, guys. Okay. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but be aware if this happens. Okay. Corporate bond market seizing up. Interbank lending spreads widening sharply. Banks hoarding liquidity. Emergency central bank liquidity facilities reopening. When credit freezes, the crises compound fast. Oil spikes alone don't collapse economies. Credit freezes do. And then currency instability in multiple regions. If there's emerging market currencies collapsing, if Gulf currencies are under pressure, and if dollar funding shortages occur globally. Strategic reserves depleting rapidly. We talked about this. If governments warn about reserves being low. If they're drained with no alternative, it's a big risk, obviously. And then a broad military escalation, direct strikes on multiple Gulf states, involvement of major powers beyond regional actors, and widening conflict across shipping lanes, the Red Sea, Hormuz, and the Eastern Mediterranean. That would be multi-theater escalation. So, but a true systemic breakdown, things to look for. Oil sustained above 150 to 180 for months. Global trade volumes collapsing sharply. Major sovereign debt crisis triggered by energy shock. Multiple large financial institutions needing rescue, and coordinated capital controls in advanced economies. That combination would resemble 2008 and 1973 or oil shock layered together. Sorry, I thought I heard the dog go. We're not there yet, thankfully. All right, so let's just think about this like on a historical level. That's so true, Don. Love that. Really love that. Yeah, that's why people are buying gold and silver. Gold and silver are going through the roof because they are suspecting that the American dollar may collapse. So I'll talk about that just briefly. Yeah, all digital backed by gold. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's hard to believe that it isn't planned, right? Like, But yeah, I mean, basically, the whole reason why this is one of these lessons that, like, if you never knew, now you know. The whole reason why we're the quote leader in the world is because we are the world's currency. The world uses the dollar to buy oil and energy. And that's why the United States is the leader in the markets and everything else. And it's kind of funny when you think about it, because it doesn't make any fucking sense, right? A lot of the things that are just are, it's like, okay, so they use the oil. Well, oil runs the world, right? That's why any free energy scientists or any of these people always get fucking killed, okay? Because if we had free energy, this war, you know what would solve this war? Free energy. If we had free energy tomorrow, nobody would give a flying fuck about the Strait of Hormuz, okay? Nobody would. Why? We don't care. We don't need your oil anymore. We don't need your fucking oil anymore. We can make energy from elements that exist all around us. And we figured it out. If we could do that's a breakthrough. And I think there are some societies in history that have done that. That's the society I want to live in one day, right? Maybe I live there and I decided, shit, I got to prevent people from not living this way. I don't know. Sometimes you just wonder, why am I here? What's the point? You know? I can't change anything, but I'm going to keep talking about it because I think it's helpful for people to discuss it. And like I said, it helps me sort of understand what's happening. And I'm open to anybody's ideas or any links they want to drop or any of that stuff. I think so the petrodollar, back to that, though, that's why we're the leader, right? We're the leader because of the American dollar. But if China is going to start paying Iran with their currency instead of American dollars, why would they go back to using American dollars after this conflict, right? A lot of times when you're put in a conflict, this has happened to you in your personal life. I know it's happened to me in my personal life. Have you ever been put in a situation where you feel like you're kind of fucked, right? Like, I don't know, you're somewhere that's far away, you don't have any communication, something happened, you got into a fight with your boyfriend or whatever, and then you just have to stay somewhere. And as you're there and as things unfold, you realize something. You see things differently. All of a sudden, you have all these realizations like, you know what? Maybe it isn't my fault. Maybe I could do this on my own. Maybe things aren't as bad as he's always making it seem. Maybe there are other ways to see this. And then suddenly you regain your agency and you feel stronger, right? Well, that's what happens during conflict and pain. When people are under duress and stress, what do? Well, if they don't just outright die, if they have some resilience about them, then they start to look around and find reasons to live. They want to live. Don't give up. I want to live. So what do I do now? Everything around me has broken down. Everything I thought was important, every person I put my faith in betrayed me. Everything's gone. What do I do now? And you look around, you're like, you know what? There's that person over there. They feel the same way I do. I'm going to go talk to them. And then you start talking and shit. And like all of a sudden things aren't quite as bad. And then you guys decide to do it a little differently. And you don't need the US anymore. You don't need the US dollar anymore. You don't need the US help anymore. Because you realized you were just being fooled that you couldn't do it yourself. You know what I'm saying? This is what's going to happen. And honestly, I think it should happen for, like, people should be allowed to be free and determine on their own how they live their lives and stuff. If our government is the cause of some of these countries not being able to be free, that really makes me upset. I don't know if that's true. It's the fog of war, all shit's flying around. I love my country still. I don't love the way it's acting, but if we are doing that, well, then this needs to happen. It's karma in a way. I'm not saying it's difficult, when you talk about stuff like this, because I am, 100% grateful for being an American, being raised in America, and the First and Second Amendment. 100%, even though I don't like government and I'm really an anarchist. But at the same time, I'm a big believer in natural law and karma. And I feel like, there's some karma coming our way. And as a collective, individually, everybody gets karma on their own, however they get it. But as a collective, yeah, I feel like there's going to be some karma coming our way. And if you look at things from, universal perspective, it wouldn't be so surprising, only because of how much suffering and poverty the rest of the world endures, while places like America and maybe even like a Europe and things like that, most people are living better than kings and queens have lived for centuries, right? Now, obviously, there's the ultra wealthy, which are just even more disgusting. And I'm sure those people have even more karma coming to them. But I'm just saying, like, can I say, like, we can all do better, right? Like, that's what I'm saying. And have I worked to end these? No, I haven't, right? And that's what they mean by manufactured consent. It's overwhelming when you start to realize some of the ways in which we the people have been directed and have been, led to believe certain things. And if you're like me, over the past decade, some of those things you've realized were bullshit, right? And that cuts you down a little, right? It hurts. But as a human with resilience, we adjust, we refocus, you adjust the sail to the wind, and you keep moving. And I still am very much happy to be alive and be in America right now. I'm just trying to distill what's going on as a whole and figure out my place in it in terms of how do I live a good life, a moral life, a good life, a life with value that contributes to society. I told you guys before my story as a PA. I've been a PA. I loved being a PA, a physician assistant. It's like a doctor, but not exactly. I could prescribe and diagnose and things, but I always had to work with a physician, and I worked in different areas. I worked in emergency medicine. I worked in internal medicine. I worked in family practice, and I also did aesthetics. And a lot of it I liked, but now not so much. Since COVID started, I stopped. I didn't like the way the system was running, but I still have this huge desire to help people. I think most people can heal themselves, but because of my knowledge, I'm able to kind of guide people with that, I think. So I'm just trying to figure out my way with medicine right now, because that was another thing that got taken away from all of us, is medicine. Like, in the sense of, like, everyone knows now modern medicine is really not it's really not there to help them feel better. It's there to get them onto different medications and drugs, and actually get sicker with vaccines that cause cancer and things like that. It's just that was tough for me. And I know I've talked about it before, but it pretty much wrecked me to see a lot of that happen, even though I had a sense that was all true. And I sort of quietly fought back in my own way in practice, where I wouldn't give vaccines because I would educate people and then they would decide not to get them. But, I did things like that. I wrote letters, whatever. But the level to which they took that, and the people that followed along without complaining, really, really was devastating to see, from someone who wants to believe you're doing something honorable and helping people. I have to admit, I was never a big pill pusher. I was never a big blood pressure medicine pusher. I was very much a holistic person when I looked at someone. There are a lot of people that just want to keep giving you more medicine and making the number smaller. And you think about it, your brain needs cholesterol. You can get demented without cholesterol. So you just have to be careful with some of that stuff. Anyway, I'm really rambling on here, guys. I appreciate you listening to my thoughts. Let me just take a look at the chat before I say bye. Confucius say, why everyone go America and no one go China? Yeah, treatments and no cures. Carmen better be hitting up good old Idaho. I don't know. This whole Trump thing has me just as crazy as Jim Carrey. Like everything he's doing makes no sense. If you don't hear from me in 2 weeks, start digging. Uh-oh, Brooke, where are you? Yeah, no cures. And then the other thing, um, love you, Brooke. Uh, the other thing is the no cures thing. You know, it's funny because in medicine, one of the first things they taught us in one of the classes was that placebo. Well, I learned this in psychology too, but they go over it again when you're learning this, and that giving someone a placebo is immoral, illegal, whatever. You're not allowed to give someone a placebo, right? And I just find that interesting because a lot of medicine is just that placebo. A lot of the pills that you prescribe, if you look at the studies, aren't really much better than placebo, right? They're actually more harmful than good. Whereas if you go to one of these herbalists, say, or a naturopathic doctor, now some of these people are just shills and they're just in it to make people who are anxious about their health pay tons of money. They'll bankrupt people. These people are no bueno. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones that actually give a fuck. You go see them and they give you a little tincture or they give you a little remedy or whatever it is. Only there's no side effects. Maybe it's placebo, maybe it's magic, maybe it's whatever, but it works. Most people can heal themselves. There's some things you can't, clearly, right? But in general, most people can. And most people do not need antibiotics all the fucking time. Just so you know, antibiotics are overprescribed. Everybody thinks they need them because when they took whatever, it cured their whatever. Number one, it would have gone away if you didn't take the antibiotics. That's number one thing you need to understand. People that always want antibiotics for their colds or their sinuses. Don't get me wrong, some people need them, but the majority of people do not. I do not take antibiotics. I may be taking them twice in the past 5 years. That's how rare I take. I won't but people want them all the time. They think it's the cure. It's because it made me better. They don't realize if you took a sugar pill for 10 days, you would have been better too. Same as a lot of the antibiotics have anti-inflammatory effects. So they will decrease some of your symptoms, but it didn't cure your virus. Your virus is going to have to play out. Better way to treat your virus is to use Zicam, which has zinc in it. There's all kinds of packs out there. I'm trying to think of the other. There are a couple really good ones to use when you're not feeling well that have always worked. Berberine is another one, berberine. And then I'm trying to think of the other one. There's a few other, but I can't think of it. Yeah, ivermectin. Yeah, they love doing root canals, don't they? Guys, I don't have I have two cavities from when I was very young. When I was very, very young, like when I was 15, 16. Unfortunately, I suffered from an eating disorder. I had bulimia. Okay. This was very common back then. Um, I felt like I was the biggest, fattest cow ever. When I look at myself, I can't even believe it. But yeah, it was a real head trip. Anyway, because I was bulimic, when you're bulimic, the acid that comes up and stuff like that, it causes deterioration of the enamel of your teeth. And so you'll be much more likely to, get cavities. So I got two cavities when I was bulimic. My mother got me help, and after a year or so, I stopped doing that, thankfully, and have never done it again since. But I haven't had any other cavities. I just haven't. And I've been told by dentists that I have a cavity, but I don't do anything about it. That was 5 years ago. I haven't done anything about it. I think a lot of the dentists are also hacks. I think there are some good ones, And I think any dentist that tells you you need a root canal or any kind of surgery, you should definitely, unless this is a dentist you knew since you were a kid or you went to school with or whatever, I think you should definitely get a second opinion, because I've heard so many horror stories with dental shit that did not need to be done at the end of the day. So yeah, that's my take on that. 1 second, guys. Hold on. I'm gonna just mute this for 1 second. All right, I'm back, guys. So all right. So check this out. This was the other thing I wanted to talk about. Right. So reality check. So in 1973, I remember as a kid, I remember when I was a kid, my mother or my father, my mother had a Pinto, a green Pinto. Okay. We would have to wait in line for oil sometimes, or gas. I remember that. 1973, oil embargo, recession. It wasn't a collapse. 1979, Iranian revolution, inflation spike, not collapse. 1990, Gulf War, oil spike, brief recession. 2020, pandemic, severe contraction, recovery followed. So these economies are not glass structures that are just going to break and fucking fall apart. I do still think, that we've talked about this. America is an empire in decline. It happens. This all happens to every great empire and country, right? We're just happen to be towards the end of that, and it's a little bit crazy. So it's crazier and crazier. Okay. That's weird. Anyone else have school canceled due to supposedly the blood moon? No snow, no rain, no bomb threat. That's crazy. That's strange. They want you guys off the road again. Yeah, there was something that who was it? It was AOC, who I really didn't like listen to her much, but she said something about air travel and how in the future not many people would be able to fly. She said that, I'm going to say, like 8 or 9 years ago. But these are the kind of things that I hear something and I always remember it. And I always remembered her saying that. And I believe that, Bones. I believe that in the next decade or two, it's going to be extremely expensive to travel to other countries. I think it's going to be expensive to fly out of the country. It's not going to be one of those things where we can just go to the Bahamas or wherever. I think it's going to become extraordinarily expensive, and so that most people won't ever be able to do it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I'm just saying I do believe that's what's going to happen. The thing about it, though, I just think of Pink Floyd. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. Yeah, they have these, what do they call them? Smart cities that they want to build, keep us all on top of each other in these little living facilities, like a bunch of rats. That's not living. Come on. Why do they want to do that? Why do they want to keep us in areas? What's the big secret here? What's in Antarctica? We need to know what's in Antarctica. We're tired of fucking waiting to find out what's in Antarctica. What are they doing with your kid? They're not taking your kid from you, right? What do you mean? Yeah, control the peasants. They don't want an uprising. They don't want an uprising. Right now, like I said, we're in that weird place, guys. Like we're in that weird place where like it's not exactly real yet. Shit hasn't actually shit has hit the fan, but I feel like the shit is flying towards the fan and it's super close, but it hasn't started to splatter everywhere yet. That's where I feel like we're at right now, you know? So you can still kind of suspend disbelief. You can still kind of say, well, maybe it's really not that bad. Maybe I just had this weird dream that happened. And actually, everything's just the way it was when I went to bed on March 1st or whatever, you know? But it's just not. It's just not. The rest of the world already knows it. America is over here. And I feel like a lot of people are just like in the woods with this shit, no clue. And the ones that do know are struggling to understand it, like myself. I'm not pretending I have all the answers. I'm just merely discussing different perspectives I've seen. I really don't have an attachment to any particular figure. I am I do like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. I like watching their commentary, but I don't know exactly what their motives are as of yet. So far, I can still watch them. No, there are some people you just can't watch. You just cannot watch because the level of propaganda that they're shoveling or the insincerity that they have. Like Erica Kirk, I can't watch Erica Kirk. Whether everybody loved her or hated her, like I can't watch her because she's so incredibly insincere. She has no authenticity about herself. And it's very awkward and uncomfortable to watch her. So that's what I mean. Hey, girl. Hey, Frankie, girl. Yeah, we are. That's what it is. It's like we're all like in this free fall. And then Donald Trump, what does he do today? He's just stalling. I mean, he just put out this information like it's a ceasefire. We're in talks. Okay. That's what our president has said. Is it true? Well, we have Iran officials saying, no, this is not true. He's crazy. We have Israeli officials saying, we believe the U.S. has gone behind Israel's back and is in discussion with Iran's, I think they said economic minister or someone in charge in Iran, one of the people in the cabinet. Is that true? I don't know. Are we now distancing ourselves from Israel? Are we going to pretend like we're distancing ourselves? I mean, I don't know. That's where we're at right now, you know? Alex Jones. Yeah. Nice to have you here. It does feel like that. It feels like there were some time travelers and this battle is glitching out real time because of different timelines. It really does kind of feel like that. And there's so many doomsday timelines right now. Like I've been tracking all of these apocalypse timelines for the past 10 years. I mean, this was not the one that I thought was going to take hold, but you know, we'll see what happens. Donald Trump said in July we're going to have a big parade for our 250th year. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I was more looking along the lines of the not climate change because I don't believe in the bullshit they teach us about climate change. I believe the earth itself doesn't give a fuck about what we do, other than the fact that it goes through cycles. I mean, I'm sure the earth would appreciate if we weren't dumping poison into her beautiful oceans and into her river rocks and stuff. That's bad, and I'm sure that we get bad karma for that. But I'm trying to say, like, the earth is going to have like a solar minimum, whether we want it to or not. The earth is going to change in its position in the galaxy, whether we want it to or not. The earth is going to have a time where maybe, you know, it decides to erupt and the continents all start to shift. It's happened before, right? The earth is going to earth. We can't change that. There's nothing human beings can do to change that. But what did they do? They blamed all of us. They said it's all our fault. And look, I'm not saying America hasn't done a lot of damage with the amount of like energy and shit we use in terms of that. The rest of the world doesn't have that wealth. It turns out that's where all our wealth comes from the amount of energy we're able to use, if you think about it. But I don't know. I'm just thinking the earth was this is going to happen anyway. So my whole thing was I was worried about a polar shift, which I'm still kind of worried about a polar shift. The geomagnetic field is definitely weakening. The poles are definitely traveling very quickly. And if you think about positive, negative, and a tilt, and how things could just go like that, the whole world's fucking shifted in a moment. I mean, there's evidence for things like this happening in the past. So that's kind of like the apocalyptic storyline I've been following. Politics was kind of in the background now for a while because I jumped out of it because I honestly can't stand politics because it's what happens every time you get into politics discussions. You've got people who are, worshipped as the heroes. You got people that get mad if you criticize them. You've got people who are absolutely fucking delusional, like we've talked about, the religious zealots in Trump's administration. And so, yeah, I'm not like a big fan of politics because every time I followed it, it's been disappointing. So I stopped following it and I got interested in true crime. I started following University of Idaho. I really got into that. I'm still into it. There's so many unanswered questions. But when the Strait of Hormuz shuts down and a lot of the rhetoric that we're hearing is being bandied about, it's hard to just like not get sucked back into it, and not really pay attention to some of it. But I'm definitely not going to stay in this mindset where it's Armageddon or apocalypse or everything's horrible. I can't do that. It's no way to live. And honestly, right now, here today, everything is okay. And you just got to go day by day. Oh, thanks for being here, Donald. Mahmoud D was live, but I'm here. I appreciate that. No, they don't. They do not, right? I see what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. No, they did. That's what they're doing. They're doing that in American schools. They're teaching the kids, oh, you want to change your gender? You want to, but I understand. We don't have to tell your parents. Come with me. Imagine they do that to your kid. Lucky they never did that to anybody I know. I'm telling you right now. Lucky. It's not a threat. It's just reality. Like, you're going to do that to someone's child? What the fuck is wrong with you? And a lot of these kids, I can't watch it. I see some of the detransitioners, these kids. It makes me sob. I watched one the other day. I couldn't watch the rest of it. I was howling and I was angry. And there's a lot of these kids out there. So, yeah, that's happening. But anyway, listen, I appreciate all you guys being here and listening. I am going to sign off now. I'll probably be back later. I would show some of the stuff that we're talking about, like even Mahmoud, because I'm interested in what he's saying. But I did get my channel I got my stream taken down twice. And so I'm really gun shy right now with showing anybody's stuff at all. Like, I really just don't want to fuck with that. And that's fine. I have a lot to say on my own without other people. But yeah, today has been a big day with lots of news. So I am going to probably head off. I might go live later. Right now I'm just going to, do some work around the house, go for a walk, take the puppers out, all that kind of fun stuff, guys. Trump said, quote, me and the Ayatollah, Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thank you guys. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here, Donald. Thanks for being here, Bones. Frankie. You guys are awesome. Everybody, thanks for being here. Okay. Brookie, thanks for being here. I'll be back. I'll be back later. You need to feed the dog and me. All right, guys. That's what's up. Catch up later.